Mr. President, either you're not getting good counsel or you're not following the good counsel that you're being provided. In case it's the former, let me give you some legal advice. Robert Mueller's appointment is the official statement of official Washington that if you've broken the law, you're out. One way or another, impeachment, indictment, or cabinet removal under the 25th Amendment. I don't know if you've broken the law, whether you've impeded official investigations, but this isn't a witch hunt. There is enough evidence relating to Michael Flynn and the Russians to cause the extraordinary act of the appointment of an independent counsel. You fired the person who was investigating Flynn and maybe investigating you after you allegedly first asked that investigator over a one-on-one dinner at the White House for a loyalty pledge. And then, allegedly, 2 weeks later, in the Oval Office, after asking Vice President Pence and Attorney General Sessions to leave the room, you told Director Comey to stop investigating your former national security advisor by saying, quote, "I hope you can let this go." At that moment, because of your termination letter of Comey, we know you had Russia on your mind. And now comes news that you told the Russians that the firing of Comey would relieve great pressure. Understand this. You can't make what has happened go away. Not by tweeting, not by rallying the base, not by having your allies in Congress or the conservative media complain. We're beyond that now. You need to hire a criminal defense attorney and follow that lawyer's advice, which will no doubt include restraint. And the road ahead is pretty clear. It's nearly certain that the truth will come out. If you committed crimes, you'll be removed. I'm not prejudging you. I think it premature and inappropriate for those who talk impeachment. You also need to hire a political advisor who will stand up to you and tell you when you're wrong, and you need to follow that advice. You need to relentlessly get to work and stay at work on the problems you were elected to fix. But even if you get past your legal issues, the only way to save this presidency is to stop talking about this issue, stop being controlled by impulse, and instead be governed by discretion and the law. Assuming that nothing that has already occurred will cause you to be removed, this presidency can be rescued. President Reagan faced many dark days in his second term in relation to Iran-Contra, but he got through it by focusing on his work, by not complaining, and by maintaining discipline. Pretty much the same thing happened with President Clinton, though that scandal was different. You can pull out of this downward spiral, but only if you have it in you to stay focused, stay on message, follow the rules, follow the law, and follow good advice. Now, some thought the president's departure would give us a respite, but the crazy news cycle kept going even after Air Force One had wheels up last night. The New York Times broke a story that President Trump had told visiting Russian diplomats that FBI Director James Comey was a nut job who he fired to take the pressure off. Every day, sometimes every hour, there's more groundbreaking journalism. And without such efforts, we would never have learned of Michael Flynn's ties to Russia. He'd likely still be the national security advisor. Nor might we know the president's true reason for firing FBI Director Comey. And one of the star reporters with several bylines each week has been the New York Times national security correspondent, Matthew Rosenberg, who joins me now. Matthew, I've got the page one above the fold story in my hand. Nut job is the sort of thing people like to discuss at the water cooler, but I think this is the more significant quote. I faced great pressure because of Russia. That's taken off. It sure seems to fit one of the elements that there was obstruction of justice, no?
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I want to be careful in this one. I think you can read it two ways. You know, Trump kind of could have, he's also talked about how Jim Comey's grandstanding and he was a showboat, and that had created pressure in the public sphere, in the press and from Democrats on him. And so he may be also referring to that, but that's the thing, it's hard to tell with Trump. He's not particularly exact in his words. And, you know, everybody will say, well, that's Trump being Trump. But, you know, and these are the moments where that kind of thing does get you in a tremendous amount of trouble. You know, there's a reason why in these meetings American presidents and diplomats have with foreign leaders and diplomats, there's really scripted, they're intense scripts. And we can make fun of official Washington as being very boring and on message. But the reason they do it is because if you don't, things can go wildly off the rails. And I think